Hi, welcome to Two Non-Doctors. I'm Liz Mealy.
I'm Maria Shada.
First of all, you'll be proud of me. I ran to my COVID test this morning. I was like, I got up early. I ran there, got my test, ran to the grocery store, was just like, before we even did this podcast, I did like 7 things.
Okay. Proud of you is funny because I'm thinking annoyed. Like, that's annoying. You're like running into your COVID test. Like, I'm ready for my test, and everybody's in there coughing and they're
Yeah,
I
can't
they have no energy.
I can't possibly have COVID. Look at this stride I have. My lungs are at full capacity.
Yeah.
It's more precautionary. I was in Texas for 2 weeks touring, and
Oh, you're home again.
yeah,
Oh,
so I was in Texas, and if I don't know if we talked about in the last podcast. Oh man, Texas, you are living a different land. It is. So first you go into Texas and you just very much notice that nobody has a mask on anywhere. Like at least certain places I've gone to, like maybe the people going into the stores aren't wearing a mask, but like all the tellers are wearing masks. No, businesses, people, human, dogs. And then Austin, I was there for a festival and I had a cold, tested it, made sure that it wasn't anything else. But, it wasn't fun. I literally was like a faucet from my face and stuff. So I was planning on wearing a mask anywhere anyway, but especially when I got a cold, I didn't want to infect anybody. But it was so funny because I saw a bunch, half of New York City comics were staying in this hotel in Austin. And so I see a bunch of friends and they go in for a hug. And I was like, oh, hey, I have a cold. It's a confirmed cold. I mean, my friend Dan borderline just like pushed me away. I was like, all right, like, okay. I just like everybody was like respectful, but then also I think people didn't trust that it was a cold, even though I got a COVID test. And then also I didn't want to give it to them. That's why I continued to wear a mask on because it wasn't fun. But I mean,
yeah. That's
legit.
really funny. I mean, I can see getting pushed away. I opened for somebody at Leicester Square Theater here, and I casually mentioned I might have a cold, and they like suddenly like the tour manager's coming up to me, and he's like, "This is going to be your microphone. Like we're going to disinfect it before and after. When you get off the stage, bring it with you." And then like I did, and then somebody else on the show made fun of me for taking the mic with me as if I was just so inexperienced that I
Yeah,
forgot.
exactly. Oh, pieces of shit. It's just, and then what's even funnier is like, I was going to wear that mask even if I didn't have a cold. But man, I was doing shows Saturday night. I was kind of running around. I had 3 different spots. And I guess this one area where like the last spot was like in an official comedy club, because the festival was like in jazz clubs and in theaters. It was like kind of all over the place. But this was in a comedy club in Austin. They blocked off the street like it was a fair or whatever. So there was like 3 or 4 blocks that are like blocked off from cars and stuff. And I mostly didn't wear a mask outside, but I would wear it anywhere inside. It was so crowded and so many people that I was like, I put my mask on outside. I was truly like mouths out, dicks out. It was insanity, like just packed streets. And this is outside. And then it was packed inside. It was just, and then I went to an after party. And, I'm not a party person at all, but I thought, oh, I'll pop in. I'll see if I know anybody. I pop in. It was madness. And I just turned right back around to the point where another comic's like, oh, how was it? And I was like, I was in for 3 seconds. I'm not. Between social anxiety and COVID, no, thank you.
Was this at the festival? I'm sorry, I kind of.
Yeah, it was in Austin.
Um, dude, I know festivals are prestigious and all, and like that's awesome, but I hate festivals. My agent was like, "What festivals? How are you feeling?" I was like, "You don't make any money. I don't make any money. I'm miserable." He's like, "Great." Struck it off.
What a brutally honest, beautiful conversation. I mean, especially in the UK, they pay a little bit better in the US, but it is still certain festivals. They like this one paid for travel, hotel, and it was a pretty decent, pay stipend. Not amazing, but decent enough. But I've done it where you have to pay for your hotel and travel, and maybe you make a little money, but we all know that just breaks you even. I've done it where they pay for like your hotel and travel, but they don't pay you. And you're like, this isn't a vacation. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, and like, I get the point is again, you meet people. I met a lot of cool people and I'm glad I did it. And what was sad is my friend Danny was supposed to come with me and she wasn't able to come last minute, which was kind of good because I had that cold. And at that time I couldn't get a test until Wednesday. So it wasn't even confirmed that I was a cold, even though I thought it was, but as non-doctors, you know.
Yeah.
But then Adrienne Appalucci was in the festival with me, and I was like, friendship. And her and 3 other comics, because of a storm, their flight never took off. It got canceled. Everybody got rebooked for flights. All those flights got canceled. Only one out of the 4 people was able to make it to the festival, and he decided to go. He had a layover in San Francisco, so we went New York to San Francisco back to fucking Texas just to make this festival. And Adrienne never made it, and I was like, I know. They said they'll she'll rebook her, and they were really nice about it. But I was like in Austin. I was like, my friends are not here. Like I was like, I don't want to be here without my friends. This sucks. Just being a full baby. I finally met my agent in person. I got picked up in October, so I hadn't, I've only Zoom met them. And then I saw a couple of friends and we got brunch.
Hold on.
Sure. What are you doing?
There's a noise.
I was like, am I going to see like an axe murderer behind you? You're like, hold on, murder. Just give me a second.
Because I saw the one mouse once, and so now any noise.
Oh, I completely forgot about the mouse. I was just like, is somebody ringing your doorbell? But you hear scurrying. That's not noise. You hear.
I hear what sounded like. It sounded like gurgling water, like that had like poured out of something and hit foil. Like, do you know what I mean? It sounded like scuffling.
What must be, because of your misophonia, I almost feel like your descriptions of sounds are so intricate and beautiful that I want you to like, that was poetry.
Oh, thank you.
That was so beautiful.
I was trying to explain to Johnny about like this girl's voice that I heard. That I was like, she sounded like battery on coins. He was like, what? I was like, she just every once in a while, her voice cracked in a way that's like battery on coins.
You know what's so funny is I could just see you being like, I'll just show you. Let me just get my stuff. Because like, those people that make sounds for cartoons. Yes. So if it's like a horse galloping, you see them with like clogs on like wood and stuff.
That actually happened last night between Johnny and my flatmate, because she was trying to explain what gain was as far as soundboards go. She was at a podcast and producing it, and he was like, but what is gain? Is gain when I go higher? And he like raised his voice, or she was like, no, it's fuller. It's the puff, the puff, the puff. Like they were just having an onomatopoeia conversation. What the fuck is happening?
And you're just there with a rainmaker, just being like, that's amazing. But yeah, Texas was wild, and it was so funny. So I run in, I go get this COVID test, and I sit down. The woman's like, "Oh, why are you here?" And I was like, "Oh, I was in Texas." And she's like, "Oh yeah," and that like I just love that, like, "Oh yeah, you should be getting a COVID test." And then she goes, "Is something going on in Texas?" Because, and I like didn't understand her. I was like, "There's no way you don't know that Texas is like no ICU beds, inundated." And I was like, what?" And she was like, "No, you're just like the 3rd person today." And I got there at like 9:30. She was like, "You're just the 3rd person today that was in Texas." I was like, "Oh, I was working. There was a festival, so maybe that's it." And then I had to be very clear that I like didn't go to a festival. I just didn't want her to be like, I was like, yeah, I was just like having my friends. I was like, at work. God knows, I didn't want to go.
So much easier all the time to just say comedian until the conversation that follows.
Yeah, and nor do I want to have that when I have somebody have like a stick up my nose and people are waiting. Like it's like my dad taught, like I've always been like, I like talking to people. Like I was at Trader Joe's, I'm talking to the checkout person. I like being personable, but there is a moment between like when you realize someone's a talker and you're like, oh, this is a problem. Like I want to leave, people behind me want me to leave. Like, so it's just like the nurse was like a little bit of a talker, and 2 people on the other side got their COVID test and left before I did. And you just want to be like, is this why being a bitch is like resourceful? Like, should I just be like hardened? And
I remember getting my COVID test, and the guy was like, "What's your name?" And I told him, because there's a 2-step process where you like put in your information, then you wait for the nurse. I told him, and he was like, "Okay, come with me." And like he like frog marched me like to this woman who was helping someone else, and he was like, you did not put her information in the computer. And she's like this older, God bless her, she's probably like a volunteer or something. She's just an older woman. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he was like, can you get her information in the computer? And it was so awkward. And everybody's looking at me because, you know, like I'm I guess holding up this nurse that could be helping other people while my information re-enters into the computer, but he's standing there with me waiting. It's like,
you just like,
I was like, sorry, you're just using this as an excuse to just stop helping people for just a breather because it feels
yeah. Being around somebody being reprimanded is like, oh, that must be like on my top things. I don't want to, like, I don't want to be reprimanded, but I definitely don't want to watch somebody else get like, oh.
It really is like the worst.
And you just want to be like, I don't really care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that big of a fuck this guy.
Well, I
like,
do care. I need my information entered correctly.
No, of course, but like, oh
yeah, but the way he was going about it was
to me, it's just like, don't yell at my mom. Like, I just get like so like, it's someone's mom, dude. What are you doing?
Oh my God. Oh, it breaks my heart. I hate it. Blah. All right. What are we talking about? I'm sad.
Announcements?
Yeah.
Okay, Patreons, people that give us money. Thank you so much. We are so grateful to everybody that supports us and our podcast. If you don't know, you can get weekly bonuses, you can get monthly bonuses, you can get stickers, you can control our Googles, you can be a Google guest, you can see our stand-up, you can get a signed book. There's so many fun benefits to being a Patreon. So patreon.com/2nondoctors to get all these fun bonuses.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who is a patron.
Yeah, patron.
Follow us on the socials. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at 2nondoctors. It's the number 2 full word doctors, and Instagram at 2nondrs. Every time I say this message, I get mad at whoever has 2nondoctors full word doctors.
Yeah, I'll fucking kill them.
And if you have time, you can leave us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps us out a lot. It helps us get seen. We feel great. We share it on our socials. People unfollow me because they're sick of me bragging on my socials because so many people love us so much.
So much love.
But yeah, it does help us a lot. And oh, Liz is ready.
No, I'm so ready. I've been up for hours.
I just took a nap. I'm like, yeah, so if you could just do that. Hey,
what?
Plug it. Let me see this mug.
Oh, well, this is the John mug because he gave it to me, but the S mug is dirty because I used it yesterday. And I basically just used 2 mugs back and forth. That's how much I love these.
You have one red and one blue, right?
Yeah, and they're 2 initials that have nothing to do with my name. It's my favorite part. Like, it just looks, you know how like when somebody breaks up with a boy and they're like, oh, that's I stole my ex's sweatshirt or whatever. Yes. It's like I just stole a bunch of, like, I stole mugs from a J and a S.
Yeah,
man.
I will probably just edit this out because it's not that interesting. But like when you said how much you loved that mug and how you like wanted to steal it from him or ask him to have it, and so I like casually looked at the bottom of it to see where I could get it, and I like Googled it, and the only thing that was coming up was used stuff on eBay, and I was like, oh, this is a rare fucking mug, and so like I couldn't find L or M. And I was looking and I did find M once, but I think it was like an insane, like the price was stupid expensive for what it was for a used mug plus like shipping and stuff. And so I ended up getting like R or S for Shahada. So there's some connection.
No, of course.
And then as I'm waiting for it to arrive, we go shopping. We're at Anthropology and I just find myself in front of a wall of that mug. And I was like, don't turn around, Liz. Don't turn around, Liz.
My mug!
It's just not rare at all. What the fuck am I doing? Why did I have to buy a used one?
I just love that you searched for it. It is legit my favorite mug, to the point, because like I told John that story and he's like, oh, you could just have that. And I was like, oh, that's a gift from somebody, but whatever. It's my favorite mug. But I go back and forth, and I don't really have cups at my place. Like I don't have any, so I drink everything out of these 2 mugs. It's pretty.
Oh, we're gonna have to change that when I get
there.
Yeah,
we will. At this point, I'm just trying to get your room situated for your arrival. Okay. But do you have before fan mail? Do you have any announcements? Any touring stuff?
No, but maybe we could come up with a show together at the end of December.
Oh, that'd be fun to do something in the city.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then for me, I don't know when this is coming out, but I'll be in Richmond, Virginia, Chicago, Kansas City, and St. Louis all in October. Everything's on my website at lizmealy.com. Are we ready for fan mail?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is an Instagram response from KL1PP3R. That's where we are now. And so this is in response to a clip from our neglect as a form of abuse episode. And he wrote 100% same. I just learned that trauma isn't the event, it's how the event was perceived. And that's why anxiety symptoms of ADHD, which is who I am, doctor evaluated. So that's why anxiety symptoms of ADHD look like PTSD. And I just thought that was really interesting. I also read somewhere recently that trauma is not just the event, it's how the event was perceived, but not even just how the event was perceived, it was who helped you perceived it. So let's say you're 8 and you get in a car crash and everyone gets hurt. You know what I mean? Everybody lives, but everybody gets hurt. If your parents don't kind of explain to you why that happened, or show that your physical pain and or emotional pain is relevant and help kind of guide you through that situation, it can completely make it even more like we could be hit by a car at any time, and death is around the corner at any second. And like, so it's like, so it isn't just, so like we could both have gotten in a car crash at 8 and have gotten severely hurt, but I could be like, well, it's because of a drunk driver, and my mom explained that doesn't happen anymore because there's more laws, and really these are the precautions that we take in the future, so this is what I do. And you kind of work through that process, as opposed to maybe your parents wouldn't let you talk about it, or made it seem like it wasn't that big of a deal, and now you're just always scared. And these are, just made up examples, but like, you can also help someone perceive it differently, and or especially if you're older, your perceiving is based on your experience in your life. So all that stuff is kind of, it just influences each other. And it kind of goes back to what we were saying in the neglect episode, which is that because I was sensitive, because of how I was raised, certain things really do affect me a lot deeper and harder than maybe somebody else, where you technically have the same experience, but I have trauma attached to it, and you're like, that was a Friday.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, I really appreciated that. And I thought it was interesting that because it caused anxiety, it looks like PTSD. But like, I just think we're learning so much more about trauma than we ever have, and how different people process it, that I think with so much more talk about mental illness or just mental health in general, I think we're starting to, because I think that's something I was always kind of hung up on, which is just that, my childhood wasn't that bad, or, people have had it worse than me. And they're like, you can't, the same way you can't compare your life in, I got this and they got that. You can't do it with this layer of how bad or something was, because everybody perceives things differently. But appreciate it. That clip did very well, by the way. It's always kind of nice when, just because Instagram makes no sense to me, where I'm just like, this is brilliant, it's gonna take off, and like 4 people see it, and then I'm just like, this is just where I'm laughing at Maria's joke, and it's like, it's a million.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, it's just my cackle.
Yeah.
Googles?
Sure.
You want to go first?
I googled, do Brazil nuts, why does my Brazil nut taste like chlorine?
The Brazil nuts, are those the big ones?
Yeah,
they're like
big meaty little guys.
Yeah, they always like mess up a mix to me. I have to say, I'm not a fan.
Oh, really? They mess up a mix to me. It's hilarious. I feel the same way about peanuts. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, no, sometimes they're overly peanutty, and it's just like, dude, if I was gonna eat peanuts, I would eat peanuts. Like, I don't need, this doesn't need to be
if I want peanuts, I want them on their own.
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't you like them?
The Brazil nuts, I kind of think they're too big for me. Like, it just feels like a saber-toothed tiger tooth, like just in the middle of my mix, like, right? Like, it's like huge. It's like, and then like, I don't know, it just, to me, it feels like 6 nuts in one, and it's just too much for my tiny mouth.
Just picture you like holding it up and sighing, because you know how much effort it's going to take to eat it.
Yeah, I have to like, it's like I have to like cut it up with my mouth. I just,
oh my God.
Work.
Okay.
I'm dainty.
Different muscles. We work out different muscles.
I'm a dainty lady.
I get you. No, but Well, it's good that you find them cumbersome, because if you have more than 2 of them, you'll kill yourself, apparently.
I like our research is like, well, don't get emotionally attached because it's gonna murder you and your family.
Do not eat them hungry. I couldn't find any actual articles about this. All I could find were forum questions. A lot of people had the same question. And
Oh,
yeah, and like the most common answer was it's rancid. But it was just like, but it tastes like chemicals. Like I thought there had been something that had gone awry in the processing, and
yeah.
suddenly I had like this chemical soaked Brazil nut, and I spit it out, and I like, it was quite a scene, just spitting it all out, and like, and I like left a
Because they're
bad
huge. That you had what is like a sausage size amount of a nut. These get bigger and bigger
You
in
know
my
what?
head.
I
You had
can
a
handle
full
it.
pickle nut.
I can handle the Brazil nuts. Yeah, I had to spit it out. And so I guess it was rancid, but it was really scary because it did feel like, the other time I thought I was eating chemicals when I wasn't, was when I was at a Chinese restaurant and I had a real Sichuan pepper for the first time. Not like, everything, like a lot of Chinese dishes are called Sichuan this and that, but like if they put the actual peppers in, it has like a haunting flavor. It's like a chemical, it's a worrying heat.
This is what I said at the beginning of the episode. Your way of describing things is like beautiful, and I can imagine you eating this pepper, and you're just like, we're not alone.
This pepper has a background.
This pepper has a story, and it's going to read it to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right, yeah, but the only like articles I could find on it were about its selenium content, and you're really only supposed to eat no more than 4 a day, because there's so much selenium in them, and you can overdose on selenium. And where it like will
Selenium.
make your
Yeah.
hair beautiful and shiny and glowy. If you have too many, it'll go brittle and it'll break. And then if you have even more, you'll die. So
What?
yeah.
I mean, in general, there's usually like about 4. They must know that when they make these kind of trail mixes, because it's usually just 4 giant fucking Brazil nuts in there for no goddamn reason. But yeah, I've never enjoyed the taste of them because I think it's too much. But also, like, I hate this, like, even when you're healthy crap, where it's just like it's such a balance where you're like 2, you're gonna look stunning. 4, you're fucking gonna fall apart. 5, you're dead. Like, what
Yeah.
do we like? That's
And don't
too.
you think that should be more common knowledge? Like you instinctively knew not to eat more than half.
Yeah.
But what if somebody just went to town on them because they had no idea? I had no idea until I Googled what, and I also think because my cupboard is above where we keep the electric kettle and the steam comes up underneath my cupboard all the time, I think that my nuts probably go like rancid quicker than any of the
Oh.
other cupboards because I have all the steam coming up. Even though the door is shut, I imagine it doesn't keep all of it out.
Oh, interesting. You got steamy nuts.
Yeah.
I Googled,
Mhm.
why is my arm swollen? This actually happened the other day and it took a while to go down. It was before I left for Texas, but this part of my elbow, like right under my elbow, like right here was like fucking huge out of nowhere. Like genuinely, I was like, what is
Ugh.
going? I was like in the mirror getting ready to go, and I was like,
Was it a bug bite?
no, it wasn't a bug bite. It was just bigger. It was like, I would say like just this chunk part of my arm under my elbow, and it was 3 times bigger, and it was like puffy. And I was like, what the fuck? And it hurt a little bit when I poked it, but for the most part, I was like, it was just not the same size, and it was freaking me out. So I told my little sister about it. She told me to ice it, and I was like, that's a valid point. So I iced it right before I went to bed, woke up, and it was about half the size, and I was like, that's something. And then I think it might have went away after like 3 days, but I was like, what the fuck was that? So I Googled it, and like, you know, I'll say this. I moved into my new place and I'm bumping into a lot of stuff. It's a new layout. My ADHD and my forgetfulness and my like doing 7 things at once, it's like really coming together. Like I'll be like, oh, I'm hungry. So I'll go to the kitchen and then I'll be like, oh, I should break down those boxes. And I'll start breaking down boxes. Like, oh, I was supposed to send an email. And I'm just like walking back and forth. But I've bumped into so many doorways. So I was thinking like, and I remember the first week I moved in, I hit my elbow a lot, like legit funny bone, sit on the ground, almost crying. Like,
oh God.
damn, like really like hit that part of the elbow arm where you're like, why is this so, there's no real reason this should be so painful. Like, what are you trying to teach me? But I didn't remember that week that I did whatever. But so there's a couple of different stuff. So it says olecranon baritis is like one. It says inflammation of fluid-filled sac, burus, located directly behind the elbow. And it said it could be trauma, infection, gout are the most common causes. So I'm thinking maybe the fact that I hit it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Because it says, so baritis is when the burus, this is a lot of B's, is inflamed or swollen. This is most common due to overuse or injury to the elbow. Symptoms include swelling and pain. If the elbow is red or feels warm to the touch, burus itself may be infected. So it's like this part of that. I think that's what it is. And it was just, I hit it. No joke. I probably hit it 5 times in 2 weeks. Like I really was like, and like my sister was telling me this and I'm starting to see it more. She goes, when you're about to get your period, you're more clumsy. And I remember her telling me that years ago. And then she brought it up again when I told her about my elbow. But like now I'm starting to notice it. Like I dropped 3 things. Like I do.
Yeah, like I do think there must be something to that. I feel like I can't socialize when I'm about to get my period. I'm just blank. But also, women drop their phones a lot.
Yeah.
Like people make fun of it, and it's just I think that it's hormonal. But why are we more clumsy? Like
I think that's a follow-up Google. Like, why would you be more clumsy when you're about to shed your uterine lining? Like, what is like, is it like, is there like, I would love to hear
the last time I had a period, which makes it seems like it was years ago. That last
whoa,
my last period,
1999.
Before
it was
I started,
crazy.
Yeah, I went to go downstairs and I slammed against the right side of the right wall, and it took me a second to be able to get back off of it. Like I got dizzy and it worried me because I was like, what the fuck just happened? But so I Googled dizziness before period, and it is a thing. I don't think it's very common, but it is a thing.
We are like losing a lot of blood. I don't know. But I think the mixture of like, I guess, clumsiness before my period and being in a new place, no joke, my poor little, and it was always this elbow, just fucking like, So anyway, I think that's what it is, because everything else, like you look, it's like tennis elbow and irritation of the tissue connecting to the forearm muscle to the elbow. Not playing tennis, also not doing too much with it. And I've been doing CrossFit once a week, but not enough to like develop that. Also, did you know there's a thing called golfer's elbow? It's a condition.
Like tennis elbow?
I just don't understand why it gets its own term, because it says a condition that caused pain on the inner. Oh, it's the inner side of the elbow. So tennis elbow is the outside, golf is the inner side. I see what it is. So it's like elbow pain, elbow stiffness, wrist stiffness. I mean, I have no sympathy for your golfer's elbow. At all. But yeah, so I think it is just
take that.
Yeah, for your inner elbow problem. Also, is there a name for this little crease? Like,
I don't know, but I had a boyfriend, and when I was in high school, and you couldn't touch the inside of his elbow. Like if you ran your finger across it, he'd like he hated it, and like it would make him really tense. And so obviously it was very tempting to continue to touch it.
Yeah, why does this get its own name and then this is just whatever? Anyway, I do think I just caused trauma to it over the course of like a week.
Life needs its complaints department, like just general shit like that.
Yeah.
I guess that's the internet.
Yeah, or like, can we make whatever the name of that just more known? So, because if I say elbow, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if I say like inner elbow, you're like, do you mean the crease?
Yeah, what's the inside of the elbow called? Lots of people ask.
I'm not alone.
The medial epicondyle of the humerus.
Nope. That's why people don't have a name for that. Medial? You gotta chunk that down.
What is it? Let's find another website. Maybe that was garbage bullshit. What is a weenus? I remember this, I think. Yeah, it's called the weenus, man. Weenus is a slang word for the excess or loose skin at the joint of one's elbow. Oh, that's not the inside of the
Oh
elbow.
yeah. Yeah,
I'll
it's
have to
just
Google this later. You can do it, but I can't.
we'll figure this out. Okay, let's get personal.
The weenus. Um, I've got my weenus is too tight. Yeah, let's get.
All right. What is the most epic way you've seen someone quit or get fired?
Do you want to go first?
I just know something I read. I remember it's like, I don't, when you read something and it just has a profound effect on you.
Yeah.
This must have been over 10, maybe even 15 years ago. I think somebody at JetBlue quit by inflating the inflatable like slide when you're like, when you have an emergency ocean landing. He inflated the inflatable slide and slid down. And I've always wanted to find out who that was, what happened to him. Like, was he fined? Was he on a bunch of podcasts talking about, like, why hasn't that been used in a movie? Like,
Yeah.
I had so many follow-up questions of like, you knew doing that cost thousands of dollars. And what pushed him? I've always wanted to do a podcast called Mealy Meltdown, where I interview people having their worst meltdown. And he was like, I'm pretty sure it was a dude. That story is what kind of inspired that. Like when you watch somebody like, just like kick a car and like scream at a bicycle, you just want to be like, did you miss your cup of coffee? Did your wife call you a shitty name? Like what leads somebody to do crazy shit?
Yeah.
And so that's like, clearly I didn't see it. I read an article about it, but I think about it every couple of weeks where I think about like, I want to do something epic, man. Like I think of people like, what is it? The guys, Jackass, where they just do crazy shit. Like they're stapling their balls to stuff and they're flipping off. Like that just is like crazy to crazy. I like not like shoot up a post office. Like that's sad, but I like hit your peak, flip a table, tell somebody how you really feel crazy. Like that's those moments where you're just like, you can't hold it in. And you're like, you know what, Barbara, you're not funny. Nothing you said has ever been funny. And this job can suck my butt. And like, I love that. Like that's I want to know about that shit.
My dad did that once with his roommate when he was living in Brooklyn before he was married. And keep in mind, my dad came from like a 1-room apartment with 10 siblings or whatever. So
yeah,
this guy his roommate used to like bum food off him all the time. And then my dad was roasting a chicken and he asked for some and my dad was like, sure. But when he was done roasting it, the guy started dividing the chicken. So he would be like, breast for you, breast for me. And like, like just give him a leg and him a leg. And my dad would just watch him divide it. And he just watched it. This guy was like, here's your wing, here's my wing, and here's your thing. And when he finished it, my dad flipped the whole fucking table over.
No one gets wings.
He went and got takeout. So angry at this guy for doing that. Just the patience is what kills me. It wasn't like he was like, what the fuck are you doing? This is my he just like waited.
Beautiful.
Mr.
Shahada.
I didn't like this isn't like epic, but I had a roommate in LA. And he was CFO of a skincare company. He had lots of money. He had no driver's license because it was suspended for drunk driving. So he was rich without dependents, and we often benefited from that. Like he paid for the cleaner, who was an organic cleaner who came like once every day, like whatever. Like he took us out to like hang out poolside by we would just do work. We'd bring our laptops and sit poolside all day and he would pay for the drinks the whole time. Like it was goddamn gorgeous. It was like my first couple years in LA and this was how I was living. It was beautiful. Yeah. But then like my downstairs neighbor had gotten a job where he got her a job and then she was like, oh, Tom got fired. And I was like, what happened? And she was like, well, I don't want to get into it. I mean, lawyers are going to be involved and like all this shit. And I was like, what's going on? And she was like, well, apparently he ran up the company credit card $100,000 at strip clubs.
What?
Yeah. Like what? Like I knew he had a bit of an issue with alcohol. Like he went on like a 3-day.
A bit. He doesn't have a license.
He went on a 3-day bender regularly. He would just like show up 3 days later. Like, it's so much fun, and he loved to cook. And but yeah, just like she just went into like everything that he was spending money on, that they caught him for, that he tried to lie about. And then I asked him about it when I finally saw him, because I think he'd just gone off for a few days. And he was like, yeah, I took some liberties. And I was like,
man, okay, first of all, I wanted to do a joke on this, but I've just realized I love like office gossip. Like all these shows, like these Bachelorette and Who's Fucking Who, I could give a fuck about that kind of reality television. I love, like, I read a whole thread about the drama in an office of somebody stealing someone's lunch, and then the guy wanted to see the security camera of it, so watched it, knew who it was, and that woman wasn't in the office anymore, and the HR person sat across from the woman that took the lunch. So they watch the security camera, they see who it is. He doesn't want to do anything about it, but now this guy knows that it's the woman across. And so then a memo goes out being like, hey, please don't take someone's lunch. Somebody took, blah, blah, blah's lunch. And her being like, who would do something like that? When was it taken? And like pretending it wasn't her. It was like 20 tweets, and I'm reading it like it's a novel. I'm so into it. And I'm like, I love that. And it's just talking about how everyone in the office knows it's her. And she's going around being like, that's so crazy. Like, I love that shit. Like, I love, and like, I just would never, like what your old roommate Tom did, I would just never, like, I get scared when I'm standing in the wrong line where you're supposed to have 10 items and I have 12 items. I'm like, am I going to get in trouble? Like, is somebody going to yell at me? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
How do you spend $100K on strip clubs
I don't know.
when I can't be in a line with too many items? Like,
like, why'd you put it on the company credit card? You had money, man.
yeah. And you're going to get found out. Like, know it. There's no, I just, like, there is a part of me that's like, I love those people for entertainment, but I would not want those people in my life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I love hearing stories about them and just being like, I want to know more. Like, why?
Yeah, but he was super nice. I mean,
oh yeah, no, I remember him as your roommate. I remember.
Oh,
yeah. And like you benefited from him clearly not caring about money. Like, it's an amazing quality, but then when you find out like how else they're living their life, you're just like, thank you, and you're just like walking away. Thank you so much. Good luck to you. Oh man, I could do a whole episode on that. I love that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Okay, topic.
Yes.
Okay. This, I got really into this. I didn't know about this until you told me about it, but the topic is, I'm gonna say it wrong. Umami?
Umami.
Right? Umami. Okay.
Yeah.
Umami. Which literally, I think you told me, then I had to relook it up, but it's just like one of the categories of taste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And tell me if I'm wrong. The 5 basic tastes are sweet, salt, sour, bitter, and umami.
Yeah.
And then what I found out is that was only like added. Umami was only added in 2002.
Yeah. Crazy. It's like discovering a planet or something.
It does. It feels like the same kind of shock where they're like, Pluto isn't a planet. They're like, umami's another taste. And I was like, how do you just add a taste?
Yeah. I forgot to write a whole essay about Pluto, like getting demoted from planet. I should find that. Yeah.
Oh, I would love to hear that.
Yeah. But yes, so it's funny, like I went down a bit of a rabbit hole with this one. So let's first define umami, I guess. It's like Japanese, it's basic, it's loosely translated into what, deliciousness? Shit. Well, I should have my notes. Hold on.
Essence of deliciousness.
Essence of deliciousness.
They had to go.
Sounds like a way to describe a weird perfume.
Yeah.
Essence of deliciousness. You could actually lick this perfume and it tastes like roast chicken.
That you stole. Roast chicken that you stole from me.
Yeah. And rage. It's hard to describe. And I've noticed that like a lot of people have a hard time describing it, but it's basically like the fullness of a flavor, or like the like the meatiness or the brothiness of something.
What I found interesting is they say usually when a chef or you're cooking and you go, it needs something else, they add umami. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like, that's the thing that they add. So it said umami is the taste of glutamate,
Mhm.
and an amino acid that is one of the building blocks of protein. So it really is like a staple of most meals. Examples being tomatoes, seaweed, soy-based foods, aged cheese, milk, green tea, onion, green peas, broccoli, chicken, beef. Like, you think about any, like, to me, that's, I don't know, it's a base of something in a lot of ways. And as somebody
Yeah.
that loves most Asian foods, but like with my yeast allergy, I just realized that like whenever I go out to eat, it's something, it's just like, oh, I think I like umami. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
my favorite taste. I mean, sweet, clearly, but
Interesting. Yeah, definitely. It kind of like adds a fullness to it. So if you're making like a vegetable broth and you just use veggies and salt, it'll be really flat. And then if you add like an MSG or like one of those like stock cubes or something, and then it just kind of rounds everything out. And I guess it's like with music, like if you just had treble on a song and then you turned up the bass a bit. That's how I picture it. I don't
yeah.
know. Um,
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but what I found crazy is we always talk about MSG. MSG is bad,
mhm.
but what's the difference between, so MSG is monosodium glutamate. What's the difference between a natural glutamate, like a natural thing, like let's just say beef, and MSG? And I get that, like, I just don't understand what it is.
I think that because beef has glutamate in it, which is naturally occurring. So I think these foods have naturally occurring umami, which is sort of like saying like raspberries have naturally occurring sugar,
Okay.
and MSG is sugar. And then
Oh, but is it like fake sugar? Is it like when you put like
no, it's real. It's just bound with salt. So I
Oh.
don't really know how to, I don't super know the science behind it, but like it takes the flavor, it takes the glutamate out of the like naturally occurring foods, binds it with salt, and then you have like a physical thing you can add to recipes to create that same sort of fullness. So like just basically driving sugar from canes or sugar canes or where the fuck sugar comes from. It's the same. That's how I can understand it. It's like umami is too sweet as sugar is to MSG, or MSG is to sugar.
Yeah, so I guess my thing is like, is it all that, like, because I've heard both sides of it. MSG is bad for you, and then MSG is, like we said, it is as sugar is to sugar cane.
Well,
So
I
what's the
think
big
that
deal?
like just like you can have too much sugar, you can have too much MSG. So MSG in large quantities, like you'll get headache or rapid heart rate, swelling in your hands and feet, and there's just all kinds of side effects like that if you have too much of it.
So, and also, I guess what they say is like, if you have a tomato, at some point you're like, I can't eat any more tomato. Like, I've gotten enough of the nutrients and whatever. But like MSG, there's no stop ground, because like maybe the nutritional facts of it are gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I wonder. I
guess so. Yeah, I mean, you can have too much sugar and hurt your stomach.
That's
So
true.
it's just sort of the same, but like with umami, like roundness of flavor. I don't know. That's how I can understand it. But MSG isn't bad for you. It's in everything. It's
Yeah,
in all the fast food you eat. It's in like chips and Doritos and soups and canned soups, and
it's delicious.
it's fucking delicious. And it just got a bad rap because, and I went on a bit of a rabbit hole about like the history of Chinese restaurants since,
Oh, I want to hear.
oh, okay. um, it kind of goes up and down, like America's love for Chinese food. So basically, Chinese people started coming over when they were having economic problems. And I'm sure there's a name for what was happening in that era, and I just can't remember off the top of my head. So they started emigrating to the US, but also the gold rush was happening at the same time. So they had like a dual reason to come because
What year is
like
this, or what?
mid 1800s or maybe even late 1700s.
Ooh, okay.
So they started coming over because of the gold rush. I think the first Chinese restaurant was called Canton, and it was established in San Francisco in 1849.
I
And
love this.
and it serves chop suey, and that is a very American dish. And so chop suey just basically means leftovers. And It's
Fun.
nothing like there's a lot. Chinese American food has nothing to do with Chinese food, which is no surprise to anyone. So anyway, the economy started taking a downturn after the gold rush a bit, and so everyone started blaming the Chinese for coming over here and stealing their gold and their jobs. Like same sort of thing you would hate any immigrant for today if you were an ignorant American. But so they're sort of like they started to deal with some racism, so they enacted, it was like an anti-immigration act basically, and it stopped Chinese immigrants from coming over.
Wow.
For a while. And then I actually don't know how the racism and the food intersect. I read all about it and now it's all kind of jumbling up in my head. Eventually they spread across America, but I can't remember what the reason was, because
they
their
took all
popularity
that gold and they invested it in property and started a Chinese food restaurant. Yeah. This is me rewriting history.
Yeah. Their popularity went up, then it went down, then it went up, and then it went down. So late 1800s to about 1920s, all the hippie bohemian people were like, let's go to Chinatown and discover new exotic ingredients because it's cheap and it's fun and it's new and exciting. And so that like made them popular again. And then the 1940s communism scare, yellow, whatever it's called, like, so it went down again. And then Chinese food became popular. Oh my God, I'm so sorry for all of this. Chinese food became popular again when in the 1960s, it just became fashionable. And then Richard Nixon in 1972 went to China and everyone watched him eat Peking duck. And everybody was like, I gotta have Peking duck. And so like,
so crazy.
Oh, but the MSG thing. So in 1968, somebody published in the New England Journal of Medicine that MSG was bad for you. And then all of his colleagues started like confirming that and saying, yeah, it's bad for you. It causes headaches. It causes like all these problems. And so the term Chinese restaurant syndrome was coined. I think it's called Chinese restaurant syndrome. Yeah. Chinese restaurant syndrome was coined, basically saying that when you eat Chinese food, you get sick and it hurts you and it's not good for you and all that stuff. And it's basically born of racism. So that's why MSG has a bad rap. And so Chinese restaurants kind of had to adapt to that and start like boasting no MSG on their windows, which is funny because when you come over here, like it doesn't really have, none of the restaurants, I actually, maybe it does, but I don't think I've noticed as much the boasting of no MSG, but I also don't think it's as prevalent, or I think it's more regulated over here anyway.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have that same history. Also, I realized there are no egg rolls on the menu here, and that's a completely American thing too.
Yeah, I mean, I've always known that like most Asian food here, I mean, I think probably all food gets Americanized, probably like Asian, but like just all cultural food when it comes here gets pushed into the American palate. And it gets, even if it has the same name as something you might find overseas, it's not the same. First of all, I guess I learned so much. But I guess
it did babble a bit, but yeah, go. Thank you.
No. But I kind of love that stuff. And I think you see it a lot. Like you got me into pho, right? Mm-hmm. Like friendship, you got me into pho. You also got me into bibimbap or bibimbap, whatever, almost everything I eat that has any kind of whatever you introduced me to. But with pho, it wasn't until years later that somebody's like, I was like, oh, it's, is pho Filipino? No, pho is
Vietnamese.
Vietnamese. Thanks for it. So, but it's not, but it's just one place in Vietnam. Like it's like one town that's known for pho. Like it's technically not Vietnamese food. It's specifically like this area of Vietnam food.
Yeah.
But in our minds, we're like, pretty much been to Vietnam because I've had pho. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So it's even interesting to me, just like when I do feel like I've culturally expanded my palate, I'm still, A, ignorant because it's in America, but B, even more so.
It's funny because Johnny asked me, he was like, are hot dogs sold everywhere in America? And I was like, yeah. But that's how you think of it. Like hot dogs are just all over the place.
Which is interesting because you could pretty much get a burger anywhere. But
the thing is in New York, hot dogs are sold on the street. Like they're everywhere. Sure. And there's hot dog, the hot dog places in New York are like chicken shops here. Like there's so many fucking chicken shops here. But like if you go to Iowa, like there aren't just hot dog stands on the street. Like you can go to the store and buy hot dogs and grill them, but you're probably not gonna. He was like, that's disappointing. I was like,
he broke his little hard. He's like, I'm gonna go to America and there's just gonna be hot dogs everywhere.
Yeah. But I love that sort of shit. Like when I found out like the red Dixie cups were like a thing here, people loved red Dixie cups.
Oh, like that you would have at like a
Are they
party?
called solo cups maybe actually?
I just think of them as party cups.
The red
Like
solo cups, yeah, because they always see them in movies. Everyone's holding red cups. And so everybody
Hilarious.
yeah.
Can't have a party without red cups, and you're
Exactly.
like,
I don't know.
okay.
They're like, because when I was having a party and then like my Johnny's flatmate was like, "Are you gonna get red cups?" And I was like, "What?"
Aw, these boys are so cute. I love this.
But anyway, umami.
So I like that they broke it down, and as I was reading it, I was like, I wonder if you, as somebody that has stronger, better, more refined taste palette, could break down. But they basically said, okay, the characteristics of umami taste is tongue coating, mouthfulness, balanced taste, salivation, long lasting, and complexity. And like, as somebody that like, when I hear somebody describe like wine or whatever, I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck that means. But like, tongue coating or balanced taste, like, what does that mean to you?
It's kind, I don't like, it's sort of satisfying in the way you might scratch an itch. It just kind of has like this, it kind of hits receptors everywhere, and you're just like, ding 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 ding. I don't know how to explain
But it's like, it's the same way that somebody might ask, when is a joke done? And you're like, when it's done. Like, I don't know. It's just done.
Yeah, it's like when I asked my mom how to cook something. She's like, you just take a bunch of this and put this, and then, she just starts doing it. And you're like, can you explain any of this? And no, I can't. It's just.
Yeah. But a balanced taste is like, it tastes right. You know what I mean? It's
yeah. But I'm trying to think of like something void of umami, which I would think would be like a salad without dressing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, it's void of flavor also, but it's also, it just doesn't, like, if you eat romaine lettuce, it just doesn't have, there's nothing to it. It has crunch and there's bitterness, but there's no fullness.
Yeah.
And I think anyone can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. They say ranch dressing is umami.
Yeah.
As somebody that's just starting to get into cooking and just starting to like have that moment where I'm like, something's missing. Now, keep in mind, when I say something's missing, what do? I go for salt. Like that's because my palate and my ability to fix is, but like I had a recipe and I didn't have the lemon, and I was like, ooh, I like, it tasted fine, but I now, between you and between like cooking shows and learning how to cook, I'm like, the lemon's important. You need the lemon, like you need the bitterness to mix with the other flavors or whatever. But it started like,
lemon is sour, but yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm doing my best.
Oh, it's okay. I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
Do you ever see the documentary Salt, Acid, Heat? What is it? I can never remember the way it's called. It's so heat, salt, acid, fat, acid. No, salt, fat, acid, heat.
It sounds like you're insulting a dish. This fat acid heat.
Some salt ass, fat ass heat
comes into my dish, into my restaurant. It's a documentary?
Yeah, well, it's a book, it's a cookbook, it's a documentary. She basically it's 4-part series: salt, fat, acid, heat. And she just kind of goes into each one of those elements. But when you're cooking with all of them, like your dish should kind of contain all 4 of those things. So if you're cooking spaghetti sauce, for instance, and it kind of feels flat and bitter, if you add cream or fat in some way, it will round it out. It'll cut the bitterness, and it will the fat cuts the bitterness, and it gives it more of a full effect. So if you're adding lemon to something, that means that it might be too creamy, and it just needs something to cut it. It might be too fat, too greasy. I don't know. I don't know what you're cooking. What were you cooking?
No. Yeah, it was like a salad bowl situation.
Okay.
I don't remember. But
so the lemon is sort of a dressing.
I think so. But like, even just that little part, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be at a place where I'm just like, oh, this feels like this. I need to add cream to it. Like, yeah. I would just be like, I know I don't like it. Like that. I'm at the step where like I'm basically a little kid where I'm like, no, like not good. But there's no, an adult fixes it. Like a kid goes, no. And an adult goes, let's put a little cream in it and that'll make it better.
Yeah.
So I'm still at the immature palate phase of, I know it needs something else. And of course, if I add salt and it doesn't fix it, I'm like, it's broken and I don't know.
If you're adding salt, you're probably looking for the umami anyway. So you should probably like add like a stock cube or Mrs. Dash or something. I don't know.
But then also I don't know how much of something to add either. Like that's the other thing is like from cooking, I start to see like how much olive oil you should add, or, you know, how like you start like I'm starting to see from just cooking now, okay, like a dash of like, you know what I mean? Like coat the chicken with this seasoning. All that stuff was so foreign to me that like I'm still in the phase where like maybe if you told me to make something, I could do a decent job without a recipe, but I want to get to the place where I just know this is how much oregano you would put in because nobody would ever put it. Like I'm still at a place where I'm just like, you know, when you were making that cake months ago and you're like, I just put in a shit ton of vegetable oil and it was like, it ended up being fine, but I was like, this seems like a lot of vegetable oil. But like, you know, like I want to have a thing where somebody, like, I wouldn't even have been like, this seems like too much vegetable oil. I'd have been like, this is what it tells me to do. Like, I don't ask questions. Like,
yeah. But if you're recognizing something's off and you're like, how do I fix this sauce, or how do I fix something? And you go online and Google it, and then you just know it for next time. But that's why I mentioned that documentary, because she kind of breaks it down, like why those 4 things help a dish and like why you need them. And it's just a really simple way to look at it. I watched 10 years of Rachel Ray. That's how I learned to cook.
Yeah.
She just makes it easy. And like, so find old episodes of Rachel Ray.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess, I mean, I would love to, I don't even know what someone would share about umami. A recipe? This is where I hit a wall. Tell us more about
What's your
Chinese
favorite
food.
umami flavor dish? What's your favorite way to add umami into something? Soy sauce?
I don't know. Write us about umami. I got nothing. Thank you for listening. You can write to us at 2non-doctors. That's 2 non full word doctors @gmail.com. And we will talk to you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.